What does Black History Month mean to me personally? I was very fortunate because I grew up with particularly a grandmother who was a history teacher, social studies teacher, and so I grew up with a lot of Black history sort of before it was cool. And I was a history major in college, so and took, the early days when you could take African American history. We were sort of the new, it was a new thing to actually have a full-blown African American history course. So, it means a lot to me that for me, it's sort of the cultural, intellectual fulfillment of the civil rights movement. One of the ways that as African Americans we've been oppressed is the erasure of our history. So it's very important that people really understand the role that African Americans have played in building America and really making America true to its ideals, the ideals in the Constitution and Declaration of Independence.
Black History Month is a time to reflect on the resilience of African Americans in this nation. That does not mean that all we're talking about is the struggle. It's really a call to action. It's to recognize what happened in the past and where we need to be in the future, which is truly free.
I think to me, Black History Month is a month of celebration, of recognition of the triumphs of Black people throughout history, also recognizing the struggles that we still face and the immense amount of work that needs to continually be done to face to battle some of the systemic issues that we still face. And it's a moment for looking back at history and realizing the historical context of how we've gotten to where we are today as Black people.
Black History Month is extremely important to me. As a student at a historically Black university, I understand that when I walk the halls of my campus that I am standing in the midst of Black history, and I'm very grateful to be able to work at the ACLU of Georgia, where they also get to fight for those same rights that students at my school did as well.
So I'm really one of these people who thinks that every month is Black History Month. But I especially appreciate February because it's a time when people who aren't as focused on Black history have an opportunity to learn something about the important contributions of Black people in this country. I do always learn something about Black people, particularly a Black person who has done some amazing thing with a lasting impact during Black History Month. That at my age of many years, that I am still learning each year after several decades of being alive, just means that Black people have made a lot of contributions to this country, and so many of them are unknown and not shared, and that really needs to change. I think it's also important, particularly during this Black History Month, where we are seeing so many efforts to erase, ignore, and diminish the role of Black people in this country, that we take the time to learn something about amazing Black people, because it is possible, or certainly seems possible right now, that this history will not be taught in our public schools, and that would be terrible.
Black History Month is a time to celebrate Black culture, experiences, history. It's a time to reflect on our adversities and our struggles, but also look at how far we've come and use that to inspire us to move forward. It's a time of education. A lot of people don't really learn anything about Black history until Black History Month. So it's also a time to share our knowledge and uplift the community.
We can't talk about Black history without talking about Thurgood Marshall. Not only a pivotal attorney, but the first Black Supreme Court justice in this nation. We're not just talking about the achievements that he made in the courtroom, but the achievements that he made throughout life of being the first Black man to do such a feat. So again, I would not be here if it wasn't for Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall?
Well, I'm a lawyer because of Constance Baker Motley. She worked with the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. She was the only woman, and I had a chance to meet her as a kid. And she went on to be, I think, the first Black woman to be a federal judge. She was appointed by Lyndon Johnson. But I think she was Manhattan Borough president. But her role, she was very instrumental in the success of, some of the major marches and demonstrations and so forth in the Dr. King's era. Because of the legal advice that she gave and helping to establish even the right to march, the right to protest, the right to sort of be out in public expressing your grievances against the government.
For me, an important figure in Black history is Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was not only an abolitionist, but he also fought very heavily for women's voting rights, and voting rights is something that's extremely important to me.
I think for me, somebody I would probably say is Toni Morrison, and her focus specifically on Black women's empowerment.
When we talk about the civil rights struggles that Black people face today, we have to look at the civil rights struggles that Black people have always faced in this country. We've always had an attack on voting rights. Mass incarceration has impacted our community more than any other community. Healthcare disparities and economic justice. So the civil rights that we're talking about now are the same ones that we've been talking about before. So for us to really achieve the American dream and justice is to make sure that we do not repeat this cycle. It's to make sure that we overcome it together.
An issue that Black Americans are still facing today is their erasure of diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only in our historically Black colleges, but in the federal workspaces. This is something that people fought for 60 years ago, and we are starting to see it going away now.
Well, I think that people right now, Americans need to stand up for democracy. The African American movement for civil rights, laid a foundation that, improved the civil rights for women, for people with disabilities, for immigrants, for LGBT people. And so to really understand that the way our system works, if the legal framework for African American inclusion is erased, then everything else collapses, and there's no legal rationale for any non-discrimination without the 14th Amendment and the laws that have been built up from it.
I actually want to say, in light of the Grammys and Beyonce recently winning Album of the Year for Cowboy Carter, her bringing to the forefront Black country artists and all the influence that Black people have had in country since the beginning of time, and really bringing that to light in pop culture.
For me, I would definitely say all of the old Spike Lee movies. They're the reason why I wanted to go to historically Black school, and I'm very grateful to have that good presence of us in the media.
I would tell her to do it. All the things, all the dreams, do it. I think there was a lack of representation for me growing up to see what was possible, but I think that has changed a little bit in my adulthood. And so I wish I could go back and tell her, pursue the dream, pursue the goal. You got this.
If I could tell my younger self something, I would definitely tell her to keep fighting, because although she's only a young girl right now, it's only going to get harder from here, and you're only going to get tougher.
To take up space, to know that my voice is just as important as anybody else's, and to know that the work that I do can make a difference. I think that's what I'd say.